All right, so I'm going to just make some quick comments to Brother Joel Webbon and something he said on X after this was posted. And I thought about making commentary on this, and I hesitated at first, and I thought, no, this is actually good for the church because it does teach an important methodological principle and something that we've been all about for over a decade here at Apologia Radio. Well, no, over 2 decades, actually, in my life, and that is presuppositional apologetics and the presuppositional methodology. And so I thought this would be helpful. So first thing I'm going to say ahead of time is somebody said at the beginning of this show, when we put it up in the chat, like, what's the beef between Joel and Jeff? I challenge you to go look through my posts and look through our videos and find any beef between Joel and Jeff, and you will find goose egg. And so,
yeah.
You know, the making a commentary off of Joel's public comments doesn't have to be beef or any kind of conflict. And I will have you know, and I'm sure Joel's going to see this, and Joel will affirm this. Joel and I spoke on the phone about 2 weeks ago. Joel and I spoke on the phone about 2 weeks ago for about an hour and affirmed our love for each other, and even affirmed our commitment that we have no problem engaging with each other's public comments. I want to say ahead of time, this isn't about personalities or anything like that in conflict. I affirm my love for Joel. He affirmed his love for me. We do have some significant disagreements right now. I'm very concerned with some of the things that I've seen. And I told Joel that to his face, and he received that well. And we committed that, yeah, we're both fine with making public comments on each other's theology or beliefs. And so Joel and I have already committed that this is how we'll approach this. And so if somebody thinks this is some big controversy, I want to stop you right there in your tracks and say, Joel and I already talked 2 weeks ago. He and I are perfectly fine with this. Joel made the public comment, so I'm going to address it. Okay? He said on X, according to this woman and many other Jews, abortion is a Jewish value. Joel goes on to say, you cannot combat this evil by appealing to common ground that does not exist. And the first thing I would say to Joel is, Joel, I thought you were a presuppositionalist. Now, perhaps, and I don't know this, I haven't talked to Joel about this myself. I've seen him make some comments, and I don't know if he's moved away from his commitment to presuppositional apologetics. And so I don't know, so forgive me, Joel. I don't quite know where you're at anymore on this question, but regardless of where you're currently at on apologetic methodology, to say you cannot combat this evil by appealing to common ground that does not exist, anybody who has studied presuppositional methodology knows that, again, one of the first things you learn is to deal with the common ground issues. When you're doing an internal critique, you have to go to that ground. So Joel says, you cannot combat this evil by appealing to common ground that does not exist. Okay, so what I said to this Jewish representative, this professing Jewish representative, was that we're supposed to share the Old Testament scriptures. So here's the question. Ready? Is there common ground between Jews? Yes.
For sure.
To deny that is to deny reality. Mm-hmm. Jewish people of whatever stripe or tribe will say that they hold to the Torah and the Tanakh, that they believe in the Old Testament scriptures. To say that we have no common ground with a professing Jew is to deny fundamentally reality. They have the Old Testament scriptures and they profess to believe it. Now, we're not saying that they do it consistently, obviously, because they reject Christ as Mashiach, right. Of course. But to say you don't have common ground is a denial of reality. And I would say further, I would say that study the Apostle Paul's methodology at Mars Hill, the Areopagus. And do we not see the Apostle Paul appealing to common ground with pagans?
Yeah.
But wait a minute now. You can't combat the evil of idolatry by a common ground with the idolaters. That doesn't exist. Well, according to the Apostle Paul, there was common ground between the Christians and the pagans and the idolaters, because what does he do at Mars Hill?
He's quoting their poets.
He quotes Aratus of Cilicia and Epimenides of Crete. He's like, even your own poets say this. What's he doing? He's appealing to the common ground. You guys say this too. we're supposed to be in the same area on this. Even you guys, your poets, your own people say this. Aratus of Cilicia and Epimenides of Crete, you know them, right? We're all the offspring of God. You guys get this. So was Paul wrong on Mars Hill when he went to pagans and he appealed to common ground with pagans? So again, I just struggle with this because Joel has for years said that he was presuppositional, but the fact that he couldn't see the apologetic methodology happening here is interesting. And to say that we do not have common ground with a Jew is interesting because I can give you 2 points of contact of common ground with a Jew. Ready? Number one, image of God. God's world, God's image, can't escape God. Common ground. Second point is they profess to hold to the same scriptures that we do. I'm not saying they are affirming all the things that they ought to from those scriptures, but they say they believe in those scriptures. That's common ground. Yeah. It is fundamentally erroneous to say there is no common ground. It doesn't exist. It does exist. Christians must become perfectly comfortable responding, your Jewish values do not matter because Judaism is evil. Well, I don't think that I've seen Joel before any legislatures doing anything like this. I know that Joel is a Christian nationalist and he says all these things, but I don't recall. We were in Texas recently. Joel is not far from the Capitol. He knew the bill was going on. Joel wasn't there. I hope that he does show up in the future for the stuff that's happening in his state to speak to the magistrates. But I haven't seen Joel do any of these sorts of things. I hope that he does start doing them. We need more Christians to go before legislatures and oppress the crown rights of Christ. So I do hope that Joel does. Haven't seen him do it anywhere, but he's making recommendations of how people ought to be doing these things. I would say, Joel, I hope you start doing it. And I would say that you're welcome to try this. I don't think that it's effective, and I don't think that it actually follows the call to apologia that we receive in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15, and that is for Christians to always be ready to give a reasoned defense to everyone who asks of us a reason for the hope that's within us, and to do it with gentleness and with reverence. I don't think that going into a legislature where the stakes are so high and the issue is life and death, and we're talking about abortion, and a professing Jewish person comes up, I don't think the most effective thing to do is to simply say, well, your question is irrelevant because Judaism is evil. You're welcome to try it. You're welcome to try it, but that doesn't seem to follow the apologetic methodology of the Lord Jesus. When he's fielding questions from people who are antagonists, he deals with their arguments and what they say, and he shows the internal incoherence, and he refutes what they're saying. When he gives parables to people to understand, hey, everybody, this is their story, and how do you feel about that? Right? So,
and chastises them for not believing the scriptures.
What does Jesus do? Like when he gives parables to the Jewish leadership in Matthew chapters 22 through moving through 23, or 21, when he gives the parables and he starts giving, hey, there's this guy, he's a landowner, and he's sending people to get fruit from the vineyard, and he keeps sending one, they beat one, stone one another. Oh, here's the son, let's kill him and take his inheritance. What do you think the owner of the vineyard's going to do when he finds out? Oh, he's going to destroy those miserable wretches and give it to others who will bear the fruit of it. And he goes, right, and that's you. So Jesus Jesus gives parables, Jesus gives stories, Jesus shows them the internal critique of their own system. He makes them look at their feet. When Jesus is giving parables, he makes them look at their feet. When they ask questions, he undoes what they're trying to do with their questions by challenging their thinking in the story.
I can think of a specific example where he's chastising his audience and said, he has this line of interrogation where it's like, you're supposed to know these things. Like, you say that you hold to these, but you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God.
Right.
If you had believed what was written, then you would know what's happening. So what is that if not an appeal to, this is supposed to be our shared foundation. Right. God said this would happen, and you believe him because you say he's your God.
Yeah.
And this is his revelation of himself.
Yeah.
I would say, just in addition to that, the only thing I would add is, we're not the standard. Nobody is. But I find it very encouraging to point out the fact, again, asking the question here, when was the last time we've seen this kind of Christian methodology in the halls of a legislature used on legislators to account for their perspective.
Yeah.
Like, when has that been done in such a way now as we have the gift to actually broadcast it to the world?
Yeah.
And show people that if you do stand on your foundations as a Christian, then you can be faithful and expose the futility therein with your opponents. And there was one more thing I was going to say. I think it's the difference also between perhaps there's not an understanding of it, the system fully, but also there's a very, very big difference between understanding it in theory and then applying it in the world, on the street, in the legislature, to witness it for as long as I have, to see it in action.
Right.
There's a difference between understanding the propositions conceptually and then embodying the approach and applying it to the unbeliever.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
And I would say just quickly, I'm sorry, Luke, quickly to that point, everybody should note that for 20 years, you've seen the videos from Apologia Studios of us, by the grace of God, being able to go out to do evangelism and actually have a recording device so you can see the evangelism, be blessed by that, and see people in those cults, various cults, come to Christ. You've seen us, say, with just the Mormons, applying the same methodology when someone says, because I'll give you another one, ready? Jews today, the Talmud, Jewish tradition says that Jesus is not the Son of God, didn't die for sins, didn't rise from the dead, and he is burning in excrement in hell. That's evil. Without question. Absolutely. But Mormonism says that Jesus Christ is not the eternal God. He's one God among many gods. He's the product of a sexual relationship between Elohim, one of his goddess wives. Jesus is Lucifer's brother. Jesus, we can go on for that. That's also sinful, evil, disgusting, evil stuff. However, when we go to the the Mormon temple and the Easter pageant to talk to hundreds of thousands of Mormons and to hand out tracts, what do we do as we talk to them? We appeal to the common ground. So when they say, well, what are you saying is wrong? We go, well, you say in your quad that you affirm the Holy Scriptures of the Old and New Testament. Well, yeah, I believe the Bible. Great. Okay. In the Bible, it says in Isaiah 43:10, before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me. What am I doing there with the Mormon? Same thing. Appealing to the common ground. They say they believe these scriptures. They're holding it, and they've got it in a quad. So I'm appealing to the common ground and then showing the internal critique and saying, but that statement is inconsistent with Joseph's statement in the King Follett Discourse and in Pearl of Great Price. And so I'm appealing to the common ground there too. I'm not saying that they really believe it. I'm saying that they say they believe it, and I'm trying to show them the internal critique so they can come to Christ. Yeah. There's no difference here in terms of the appeal either to the professing Jew or to the Mormon. And I would say when someone says, again, that there's no common ground existing between us and professing Jews, go to a Jewish bookstore. Go to a Jewish bookstore and see if you find the Torah and the Tanakh. I think you'll find it. I mean, to say there's no common ground is absolute absurdity. They say they believe in the Old Testament scriptures. I'm not saying they're doing it faithfully, but that's their profession. And that's what was being pressed against this woman. And here's what I would say as graciously as I can. I dare you to go into a legislature and try to pull that. Your Jewish values do not matter because Judaism is evil. What kind of argumentation is that? How about what I think is better is you demonstrate before the legislature and the watching world that her profession as a Jewish legislator is false, that she's actually not being truly Jewish, that she doesn't hold to what she says she holds to. How about what's better is that as a Christian apologist, I refute her position. I bring that's coming against the knowledge of Christ and the protection of these children. I bring it into absurdity. I refute it in front of the other legislators that you're not truly Jewish. I am. I'm being the true spiritual Jew here. I'm the offspring of Abraham. I'm the descendant of Abraham, not you. I'm the one holding to the Jewish scriptures. You say you're Jewish, but you're not. You're lying. I'm the true spiritual Jew here. That's what ultimately I'm trying to do.